In this video, we are going to be talking about this new lyric workbook from Half Shy. As you know, if you've been around before, I care about lyric writing very deeply, so I have a soft spot for basically anything that helps people with lyric writing because I think it's the most underemphasized part of songwriting and also is one of the most important parts of a song. Just to be clear up front about what this video is about, I haven't actually utilized this yet. I plan on utilizing this and then doing a follow-up video of how I feel about it after I've actually used it. This is more of a reaction to what's inside, what I think on first impression of it. And this is not a sponsored video. I'm not getting paid to talk about this. Half Shy did send me 2 free copies, but it's not sponsored otherwise, and therefore this is going to be my honest opinion on this. And this is something that we both decided that would be best for you, the watchers, and also for her because, well, honest reviews are going to go way further than me just being like, hey, you should get this book because somebody paid me to say that you should get this book. So instead, this is probably best for all parties, not a sponsored video. So I'm going to give my honest feedback on what I think of it so far. So first off, it calls itself a lyric workbook, but I would actually argue it seems to be even more than that because it's not just helping you work through lyrics. It really seems to be sort of a holistic sort of songwriter productivity and creativity system because a large portion of this book actually has stuff in it that is really meant to be sort of like a beginning of the day journal type thing where you just sort of have a boot up sequence. And you basically just like, it's sort of the idea of object writing without being object writing, where the idea is you wake up and you just kind of clear your mind by writing it out. There's even a section at the bottom that talks about like, hey, write your 3 big goals for today. So really, it's more than just helping you with your lyrics. It's also sort of leveraging the idea of object writing and morning pages, I think it's called, where like, the idea is that you write 3 pages in the morning just to kind of like get your creativity going and to sort of flush out all the like crap that might be in your mind early in the day and just like write it out so you can forget about it. So this sort of leverages that same idea, but tailored specifically to songwriters. So besides that morning boot up, this book also contains a daily practice routine where for every single day of the week for the first 6 days, it's always going to be the same. So for example, if you run from Monday to Sunday, every single Monday is going to be the same exercise. But then every last day of the week, so Sunday in this example, is actually going to be an exercise that changes up. Now, not only that, but not all of these exercises are purely lyric writing exercises. One of them is listening to another song and sort of breaking it down and analyzing it, which is something really important that I think sometimes we passively do when we listen to songs in the car once we become a songwriter. But I think actively doing it can be really helpful. I know in my music composition class in high school, something that was really helpful, our final in that class was actually listening to, turns out, 2 songs from the Gladiator soundtrack and then another song I don't remember because Gladiator's awesome. I do remember that. And that was just really helpful, like just because we did that throughout the music composition class, and then that was our final exam. And just like actively learning to train your ear to specifically pick up on things that are happening and something somebody else wrote is a great way to increase your own songwriting skill, which that, yes, involves lyrics, and this is a lyric workbook, but it's more than that. It's actually holistic on songwriting in general because you can pick up things on the musical side as well. And then also the day 5 of the week exercise is actually called Noodle Around. And it is really an exercise that ultimately is actually, again, sort of a combination. Yes, it's talking about improvising lyrics out loud, but it also gives you a breakdown of a whole bunch of different chord progressions to use in major and minor keys, as well as it gives you like a whole breakdown of, hey, here's your 1 through 7 chord in every single key, which is really helpful. So it actually teaches you some like music theory along the way too. And the way it teaches you these things is really just, it gives you the information you need for the practice routine. So it's not like, hey, I'm going to throw a bunch of music theory at you and later you can figure out how it's useful. It's more like, here's your exercise for the day and here's a little bit of music theory knowledge to sort of inspire you and help you out that directly pertains to the exercise you're doing today, which in general I just think is a great way to sort of subtly teach people things that's actually really important that they might, like, nobody's excited about music theory, unfortunately, it feels like, but really it sort of just makes it incredibly practical and in the moment, which would be really helpful. Overall, as I was going through this book, looking at the different exercises, something that struck me is that I thought that this would be a great way to take 1 month and really just figure out which different types of songwriting exercises might be helpful to you. Because there are so many different exercises in here, because yes, there are the ones that repeat weekly, which are 6, right? But for the 7th day, there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, sort of 8 actually different exercises. So that's 8 plus 6. So that's 14 different exercises to do, which is quite a lot, because in my lyric writing process, really there's like 4 or 5 things that I do. So certainly taking a look at another 14, 1 or 2, or maybe even 6 of them might end up being something that I think, you know what, this is going to be a part of my routine. This is going to be something that I end up doing repeatedly. And then of course, you know, whenever there's 14 of them, I assume, and I don't know yet because I haven't run through it yet, but you know, you might find ones that don't actually work that great for you, but who cares, right? If you could take 1 month and figure out 4 new lyric writing exercises that are really helpful to you, that is a month well spent. Because there are things in here that honestly, I haven't even really thought about doing. There's one thing in here that really is essentially mind mapping for your song, which actually seems really obvious now that I saw it. But it's something I don't think I've ever tried. But you know what? I look forward to going through this and trying it out, because I really do like mind mapping the couple of times I've done it, but I've never done it for a song, and it seems like it would actually be a great fit. So I think this could be a great way for people to find different lyric writing exercises that they want to utilize over time and keep utilizing, as well as maybe try out some that maybe won't end up being a good fit for them. And the third and final part of this book, or at least the final main section of this book, is actually walking you through the lyric writing process, which I think is super great and helpful, because it would be really easy to just be like, hey, I have a book that does teach you a bunch of lyric writing exercises, but then doesn't actually put it all together for you to then actually walk you through, okay, you've learned all these types of things from doing the exercises, but now let's put it to work. Not to mention, I'm also a big fan of listening to other people's lyric writing processes or songwriting processes, because sometimes you don't even consider a certain step in a process, or you don't consider refining your own process until you hear somebody else's process and you're like, huh, I never would have thought to do that. But that's actually really helpful. For example, maybe you grabbed my 6-step lyric writing checklist before and you thought, hey, this is helpful, but you know, step 2 doesn't really work for me, or I need to refine the way I utilize step 3 because, you know, maybe that works for him. But for example, some people have told me the whole like looking for images on Google Images and grabbing images, they say it hasn't been helpful to them. Lots of people say it is helpful. Some people don't think it's helpful. So don't do it then, right? Like just take the parts that are helpful. And then reading something like this, it might be the same story, right? You might end up finding 4 out of my 6 steps helpful, and then you figure out that some of her steps are helpful, so you actually end up combining them. But overall, you should be refining what works best for you over time. And certainly, if you can figure out other people's processes, or they give you different processes, that's a great way to do it. I might end up going through this and saying, you know what? I need to add a step to my lyric writing process, or maybe I should adjust one of my steps of my lyric writing process because there was a cool thing that Half Shy walked me through that I'm like, oh, I haven't done that before, and that was actually very helpful. So then on the things to be improved part, and again, I haven't gone through this yet, so this is just sort of what I think off of my first view, is I think it'd be really cool if a version of this was made where it was like a binder. And then when you bought it, the binder came with all the pages that are in this book, but then you also get access to like a download to be able to download another month's worth. Because really the pages that are in here are something where if you actually fill out the pages, it's meant to last a month. That's fine if you're utilizing this as something where like you literally for a month are going to figure out, okay, which of these exercises are helpful to me, and I'll keep doing those, just not physically in this book. Then it doesn't matter. But if you are a person that wants to religiously go by this process every day for not just 1 month to learn and then keep what you like and not keep what you don't like, but actually utilize this process constantly, it'd be really cool to have something where it's like, you know, say it's $15 for this, but it was like $50 for like a nice binder that comes with these pages, and then you have access to something to be able to print out your next month. So you can go through this in January and then print out new pages to add to the binder for February. So anyway, that's just something I was thinking about as I was looking through this. That could be a cool new like second product to go along with this. That would be a little more expensive, but also something that would allow a person to sort of basically have it so that for a year they had, you know, their last year's worth of exercises in a binder, and then they clear out the binder and then print out more for the next year and that sort of thing. Could be pretty cool. Also, there's a really cool part in the back of the book that actually contains a whole bunch of ukulele chords. And it made me think, hey, this is awesome. You know, it'd be really cool if you actually had several pages and you gave some basic piano chords and guitar chords and the ukulele chords. That could be super helpful. I don't think it's necessary. Of course, you can look up guitar chords and piano chords online, so it's really not necessary at all. But it kind of feels like, hey, you did a really cool thing. You should double down on that because I think it's really cool. And also, there's this awesome page at the end that contains a lot of really helpful things. Like it talks about different points of view. It talks about meter, which is something we've talked about on this channel. It even breaks down things like consonant families and different rhyme types like perfect rhymes, family rhymes, assonance, consonants, which is all really, really helpful stuff that I think a lot of people don't talk about. It might sound like, okay, so you like the last page. Why is this a to be improved item? Well, first of all, it is a thing I like. But what I would say is, hey, this is cool. You should double down on that. Maybe have 5 or 6 different pages to break down some of these things in even a little bit more detail, or to break down even more things, because there's a lot of good information in here. And it made me think, hey, why stop with 1 page? You could do like 2 or 3 pages and that would be super helpful too. I don't think it's necessary, to be clear. So really this isn't a negative so much as in the future, what could be cool to see? And something I think could be cool to see is even adding some more informational pages. But again, just to go back to things I at least alluded to in the beginning, but I want to make sure it's clear. This book throughout has things to help you out and advice to help you out. You know, I talked about the whole noodle around day 5, where it actually gives you like all the main chord progressions and major and minor keys. Of course, there's infinite chord progressions, but it talks you through almost all the like main ones that you would hear in a typical pop song for sure. And then also talks about all the triads that you have, all the main 1 through 7 chords you have in every single key. And it's really efficiently done too. It's fit in such a small space. And there's like advice throughout this book that I think is really cool. And just in general, the idea of sort of teaching as you do. So it's never like, hey, here's a bunch of learning and then go do it. It's more like, here's a little piece of knowledge to help you with the exercise I'm giving you to do right now that you may or may not have known before. But now I'm going to give you knowledge and then make you use it right away. Because if you don't use your knowledge, you lose it anyway. So this really puts that into effect. Overall, I'm excited to go through this book. Again, I'll upload another video to talk about my experience after the book. But overall, highly encourage you to check it out. I'll put a link in the description. Big thank you to Half Shy for sending me this. Again, not sponsored, but was sent to me for free. Overall, I'm really excited to get into it. Be sure to check it out.